Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Open Book Entrepreneur. I'm really happy that we have Ed Squire with us here today. He's an amazing guest and involved in so many things like all the top entrepreneurs. So, Ed, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you, Tony. Yes, so I'm Ed Squire, and I'm in Denver, Colorado. And I've got a we all have an interesting background, but I'm very much into podcasting, public speaking, and building my own websites. And I'm a huge advocate in helping trauma survivors. So I'm into a lot of different spaces in my life, in filmography and making films and doing documentaries. So that's what my lifestyle is like, and I love what I'm doing.
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks for that introduction. So, can you tell us, please, what actually inspired you to start your own business?
So I worked for like my career before I got into doing this kind of work was I was a high-end consultant, or I was also called a trusted advisor for Fortune 500 companies, and had a unique and I'm very grateful for the experiences I had working for Fortune 500 companies in the United States, Canada, and in Europe. And I worked at a very high level. So with the C-level management, like the CIO, CFO, CEO, the vice presidents of companies like Pepsi-Cola Global, Boeing Corporation. And in Europe, I worked for pharmaceutical companies, and the list goes on. And I learned a ton from functioning at that level. And I'm taking everything I've learned and pulling that into my own businesses now, instead of doing it for Fortune 500 companies. And I'm really grateful for that. And so that's why I'm transitioning out of that level of work into doing what I want to do. And there's a story behind that, but that's what brought me to where I am. And I love more than anything, I love filmmaking, and I love connecting with people, and I like making a difference in the world. So obviously, kindness is a big thing, and so is working with trauma survivors. Those are two huge topics in our culture today, and I never expected to be here, but I love what I'm doing now.
Totally. And what is one of the biggest business successes you had so far in your entrepreneurial career?
That's a good question. I've been very fortunate. My biggest success. So I would say my biggest success is what's coming up in actually this year is a documentary about my life. When I started my YouTube channel and a nonprofit organization called Me Too What Now, it was for survivors of trauma and abuse. And just making the whole story short, I was abused by an elementary school teacher for 2 years when I was young, and so were pretty much all of my friends. And I lived with the results of how that impacted me my entire life until just over the last 10 or 15 years. And thankfully, I learned that where it happened, which was in Canada. I live in the United States now, but in Canada, there was I could sue if I wanted to, because there was no I forget the word that they use. It doesn't matter, but I was able to sue. So I sued the Supreme Court back in Canada, and it opened up a huge movement in my own country, and also down here with a nonprofit, Me Too What Now. So on an entrepreneurial level, I think that's very different than a lot of people. A lot of people talk about the money that they made, or maybe I don't know how many people are following them, or cars and houses and stuff. And to be honest with you, those aren't even things that I'm after. I don't have, like, on my dream chart, there is no cars and vacations and money. There isn't. My goals are to make a difference in people's lives. Kindness is a big one, and so is helping survivors. So really stepping into that space and not being afraid of speaking out and going to court on a public level was what I would consider an entrepreneurial success. And that opened up the doors where many people, organizations, companies, and individuals themselves got a hold of me to find out how can I help them, or how can we get involved? How can we work together? What are you doing? Can you come and speak? And that was a huge entrepreneurial success story for me. And I'm looking forward to where it's going this year.
Absolutely. And so what are you working on right now? What are some projects and some YouTube channels and podcasts that you're working on right now?
Yeah. So like I was telling you before, it's interesting how I'm doing this, because I do everything solo. I do everything by myself. So I create my own websites, I create my own YouTube channels, all my branding, all my marketing, all my strategies. But I got that experience from working for these Fortune 500 companies. So I was kind of silent for the last couple of years, because I had to go through I have a crazy story. I had to go through literally a brain surgery 6 months ago. And what was leading up to that was causing me to not be able to build my businesses, which I didn't even know that. And so I've had to go through that and then recover from that. And so it's only 6 months ago, which is not that long. And what I want to do now is, number one, pace myself. There's no rush in anything. And I've relaunched my podcast, which I'm just telling you, it is such a great show. I never thought it would be what it's becoming to be right now. It is so good. And so I'm relaunching my Visible Kindness podcast, and that comes with a website, and it comes with the YouTube channel. I love how YouTube is now doing not playlists, but podcasts on their in their media now. And I'm also relaunching Me Too What Now on YouTube, and also its website. And I know it's going to get a lot of attention. I'm very excited to see what I can do with this and driving it this year, with my brain in order, and rest and recovery. And that's what I'm doing. So it's a full load. Like right now, literally, I'm working on the website for Me Too What Now, and the background behind that, all of the I'm also doing. People always ask me about my T-shirts, because they like what my T-shirts say. Everywhere I wear these shirts, they ask me when I wear this one. They ask me, "Can I have a kind word from you?" That's what they say. Your shirt says you give a kind word can change my day. Can you give me a kind word? I never expected to get that response from people. There's a reason why I wear my shirts, but a lot of people have asked if they could get them. So I decided, why not make a merch shop with T-shirts and coffee cups and hats and things like that. So this is what's on the scale for me right now. So it's a very busy time, but trying not to overdo it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so since this is Open Book Entrepreneur podcast, like, what sort of tips or advice you would give to entrepreneurs that are actually running the show by themselves and doing things like you mentioned also, but you have this experience with working with Fortune 500 companies. So you compared both worlds. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, that's a good question, because when people see what I do, I'm really grateful that it looks great. I mean, my stuff looks great, because I understand branding and marketing and creating content. But I'm not like a huge successful person yet. So I used to sell a course, and you know this. Remember, Tony, I used to sell a course that taught people how to use videos. I'm relaunching this as well. It teaches people how to use video in an actual sales marketing funnel, not just put videos out there that you've heard work. You need to have strategy behind what you do. So I take all of my background working for all these Fortune 500 companies, and I've said, well, if I've spent all this time working for them and telling them how to fix and how to grow and how to implement, why not do that for myself? So I always encourage people to have a strategy before you start doing anything. What is it you're trying to accomplish? What is it? How long do you think it's going to take to get there? Any business takes 2 to 5 years. I don't care if you see someone that started a business and bang, in 90 days, I'm making all this money. You see it all the time. But that does not happen in the regular world, and it happens for very few people. It's going to take time to build a successful business. So have a plan, know what it is. A big thing on a personal level, not even from a strategic level, is really get to know who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. And if money and success is the number one reason, it's not a sustainable goal. It's just not, because what happens if you find yourself not being successful and not making money? Now what do? I've learned through everything I've done to, number one, be kind to myself. That's what my podcast is about. Be kind to myself. Really be authentic with who I am. And to be authentic that's a trick. I mean, like, what does it take to be authentic? You got to have some self-confidence to do that. I've spent years, I mean, I can look and sound good, but it's not, I'm not being authentic. And my business although it looked great, it never grew like I wanted it to. Now that I've really taken that step and pulled that into all of my business aspects of just being authentic and not worrying about what anybody else thinks about what I'm doing, and then zero that in on my goal and what I'm trying to accomplish, now things are really happening. And that's a mixture that comes together. And I'm not the only person that speaks like this. You'll hear it from many people who are at the successful levels I'm looking to get to, which is really making an impact. For me, it's not money. If it is money, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's not what I'm looking for. But it takes a tremendous amount of people to either make a difference or to make money as well. Depends on what you're selling. It may not take a lot of people, but you know what I'm saying? That's what it takes. So you need to be confident in yourself and take your time, and then constantly review what you're doing and make changes as you go along. So it's more than it can appear to look like when you watch some YouTube clips on how to do this and how to do that. I get it. But the reality is, these are the things that I've learned to focus on that have made a difference.
Totally. And what's your mission in your business right now?
What's my what?
Mission.
My mission. So do you mean my mission with everything? Well, that's that. I don't even have that one written down. So that's a good question. My mission, I can tell you, is to make an impact in the world today, to make an impact in the world, teaching people how to be kind to others and kind to themselves. That is absolutely a mission. And I think that would be the overall mission for everything. That's over my Me Too What Now business that I have, and teaching people how to market and make videos and all that. It is making a difference, making an impact in the world today. That's what it is. I don't know if that answers your question properly, but
yeah,
that's
totally answers the question. And I'm really happy. So can you tell us a little bit more about, like, what does it mean for people to be kind to themselves or to others? Like, how that makes a difference for everyone?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I love that question. I get asked all the time. And I originally started this podcast because I did not have self-love. I did not love myself. I was actually in a suicidal position in my life. And it's a whole long story. There's literally a documentary of my life coming out this year, but I was in a very deep suicidal state with heavy duty mental health issues. And I'll never forget, my mental health therapist said, Ed, you need to be looking up and looking at people and saying hello. She said, you're always looking down. You're always looking down. You're never looking up. And so I started to look up at people and say, hi, because I felt like I was very uncomfortable looking at people and then saying hello. I didn't have any confidence in myself. And I was so surprised that people replied and they said to me, hi, hello. Most people were really kind. Pretty much everybody was kind. Nobody looked at me and said, what are you saying? Everybody was kind. And it just gave me a warm feeling. I felt good about myself. So I started to do kind things all the time to others because it was reflecting kindness back on myself. And my slogan that I created, and you can Google this, because I wanted to create something that nobody else had. I wanted to be original, and it's kindness given to others is a reflection of the compassion you give to yourself. And so that's what started what I'm doing. And now I forget your question.
Yeah, that's fine. You actually answered it 100%. So if someone wants to actually get in touch with you, if they want to check out your work, if they want to connect to you, if they want to see some of your podcasts or YouTube channels, how they can do that?
Oh yeah, the best thing to do is I have my first and last name.com. So my first name is Ed, my last name is Squire. It's edsquire.com. And right now it's my podcast is there, and I have a page for I advertise myself for speaking events, and there's a temporary page for Me Too What Now, and that's going to be a separate website that comes up in February. But I'm going to use edsquire.com as the central place to answer the question you're asking me right now. Where do people go? And that will connect them to not only the podcast, but my website, my other website and YouTube channels and whatnot. That's the best place to go. And it's about to change in February, but I like it right now. It's great. I'm excited for what's happening.
Wonderful. So edsquire.com, I can share that in the comments, sorry, in the description here, because this is going to be published on YouTube and a few other places. So yeah, thank you so much for being a guest today and sharing your story. And I'm really excited for your next steps and stuff. Maybe we can reconnect and, have you as a guest later on in the year or afterwards. But thanks a lot for sharing everything with our audience, and see you in the next episode. Thank you all for watching and listening.
Thank you, Tony.